India should have growth and it should be an inclusive growth. To make that happen, one of the important areas is for big ticket reforms to happen. And that includes land, labor, and of course, to a certain extent, the agriculture sector, which requires support. Suggestion which we are giving is for an employment-linked incentive plan, like the PLI had been introduced.
BJP, Congress, and other parties, regional parties are coming up with their manifesto. What should be the manifesto of the country as an industry perspective, sir?
So, from an industry perspective, what we are looking at is that, let me say, 4 broad points, right? First and foremost, we are saying that India should have growth and it should be an inclusive growth, which is very important for us from both from industry perspective and also from country's economic growth perspective. But to make that happen, one of the important areas is for big ticket reforms to happen. And that includes land, labor, and of course, to a certain extent, the agriculture sector, which requires support. So to make that happen, there has to be a broad consensus built amongst the center and the states. So the GST structure type of a body will help the implementation of these reforms in a proper and phased manner and make it possible and feasible for the growth of India to be happening. That is number 1. Number 2, MSMEs. So MSMEs have today, to get them better access to the formal economy and from funding from banks and from fintechs, what is needed is that the ECGLS scheme which the government had announced can be institutionalized as a support for them. And to make that happen, that needs to be done in a with a rating agency tie-up, which can help make the rating suitable for MSMEs so that they can get access to the banks and the fintech players. Similarly, MSMEs have a challenge in terms of getting the funding for the transition to the sustainability and green energy. That also needs to be supported. Final is the point of the digital transition. So if you look at a fund which will support all of these 3 initiatives, and with the rating coming on board, I think MSMEs will be supported. That helps inclusive growth of businesses. The third aspect is the spend on education and health. So if you look at the focus on that, it is to increase the spend on health to almost 6% of the GDP over a period of time. On education to the extent of 6% of the GDP, and on health to the extent of 3% of the GDP. So these 4 actions, with the one more suggestion which we are giving, is for an employment-linked incentive plan, like the PLI had been introduced. Especially this will support certain sectors which are high employment generation: tourism, healthcare, hospitality, and logistics. So these are the common points which I think we are looking at from an industry perspective as to how the growth can be maintained and made more inclusive.
Sir, do you have seen the manifesto of BJP, Congress, and or other parties? And have you find something for industry?
No, it is still early days for us to look at it. For us, it is not about the manifesto. It is about the intent of the parties. And these are the points which we have given, which I think will cover our expectations.